Good morning and welcome to Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwebike. We'll be starting off today with our newspapers, and right after that will be our main conversation also for today. But please do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. We're very so honored to have with us Emeka Madonagu, journalist, public affairs analyst, to see through all that we have from our newspaper angles. Good morning to you, Emeka, and welcome to Enterprise Weekend today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Hello, viewer.
Thank you so very much. Now, let's start off with the Weekend Trust newspaper and straight to our talking point for today. Federal government to U.S. Christians not target of insurgency in Nigeria. Emeka, what do you make of this statement? Is this more like a carryover of the anger the United States has for Nigeria, as made possible by our past president Muhammad Buhari with Nasser El-Rufai and everything that happened in the southern Kaduna? Or is this a new development that we do not know?
Well, of course, if you remember, during the time of the first term of President Donald Trump, if you remember, there was a matter like this came up, where some congressmen expressed concern about the targeting of Christians, by bandits, and now, you see, one problem with the type of, the lack of strategic communication in the Nigerian government is that the way they respond to things, actually shows a lack of understanding of the nuances of communication. The congressman didn't say the Nigerian government was targeting Christians. He said bandits, terrorists were targeting Christians, and the Nigerian government wasn't doing enough. And let me tell you, you're not issuing a statement from the presidency. That doesn't concern them. It is your ambassador. If Nigeria had an ambassador to the United States, it's the ambassador who would have, actually, done the interface. But you prefer not to send ambassadors for going to 2 years now. You refuse to send ambassadors to countries with whom we have bilateral relations. And then you just depend on issuing, statements from Abuja. It will not wash. The fact of the matter is that, yes, Christians are being targeted. Look at the southern Kaduna, look at how people are being, even up till now. Look at the minority Christian communities in the north. Is it when you come down south? Many communities across the south, occupied by Fulani herdsmen. Just yesterday, some women in a place called Ugoneki on Benin Asaba Expressway, blocked the road, saying that Fulani herdsmen have been raping their women, and killing their men, that not allow them to go to their farms. So you find out all these things are happening all over the country, and the Nigerian government is just paying lip service to it, pretending as if they are weaker than non-state actors. So it is this, it is this level of, it is this, level of irresponsibility that has stirred the interest of the U.S. Congress, and that made, the Congressional Subcommittee to recommend sanctions against Nigeria. And let me tell you, Donald Trump is going to approve those sanctions, because don't forget that, he got huge support from the Christian community, from churches, from Christian voters. And if you now add the hostility against the targeting, the industry that attended the 2023 elections, it's going to be a tough one for Nigeria. It's not just about issuing press statements or inviting Catholic bishops. A day after 2 days after you told the Catholic bishops, that they were talking nonsense. When they told you that the security situation in the country was deteriorating, when they told you that, things had gone very bad, you dismissed their call immediately. Then within a few hours, you invited them to Abuja, for a meeting. It shows you are insincere. It shows palpable insincerity. And let me tell you, unless President Bola Tinubu removes this Fulani herdsmen from the forest, and deals with this issue once and for all, decides on ranching in states that are interested. Look, the international community is going to descend heavily on Nigeria. It's just a matter of time. Thank you.
Very, very true. And while we're talking about that, as it is happening in Nigeria, in South Africa, the ambassador, South African envoy to the United States, has been declared persona non grata, which means he is not allowed any longer in the United States of America. It has been said by the representative of the United States government that the ambassador, South African ambassador, is a racist that does not like the United States and the person of President Donald Trump. So speak to me on this matter. How do you equally place the issue with South Africa?
Well, basically, that of South Africa is a more economic issue. A situation where President Donald Trump accused South Africa of appropriating the lands of white farmers, and now offered asylum to Afrikaner, farmers, South Africa, who are willing to move over to the United States, and an accelerated path to citizenship, to American citizenship, So, and of course, the expropriation of minerals, from South Africa, by the United States. And South Africa has suspended American businesses, and suspended the exploitation and export of rare earth minerals from South Africa by the United States. So, and of course, the ambassador has defended it. What do you expect? What do you expect? Of course, it's reciprocal, because Donald Trump is just bent on fighting anybody he perceives as an enemy. Any country he perceives as an enemy country is just bent on, fighting them. That's what has happened. It's not as if the South African ambassador to the United States, had committed any crime. He only defended his country, and that's all.
Very, very true. Just before we leave what's happening on the pages of the Weekend Trust, let's equally take a look at the Kano Emirship tussle. Wait for Supreme Court verdict, justices say. It's a developing story, Emeka. The Kano State, the Federal High Court in Kano is stating that particular case is a chieftaincy matter that should be domiciled with the Kano Appeal Court in Kano and not the Federal High Court in Kano. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, the State High Court.
Yeah, the State High Court.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it falls within the province of the state, of the Kano State High Court. But moving into the Federal High Court, as Alhaji Ado Bayero's side has done, of course, all of it, I believe the Supreme Court is going to return the case to the State High Court, to start afresh, because you cannot put nothing on nothing, So if you want to pursue a matter, you have to go, and it's a chieftaincy matter. You have to go to the State High Court, or commencing the matter from the Federal High Court, where a judge gave a ruling from an unknown location. I mean, it doesn't hold water according to what we've seen. So the matter now has gone to the Supreme Court, which is expected to return the trial to the Kano State High Court. How it's supposed to be, because there's a precedent in this matter. If you remember, if you go back to the deposition of, I think, was it the Emir of Gwandu, former Emir of Gwandu, Alhaji Mustafa Jokolo. This was, this was this kind of thing. They went back. It had to be the State High Court. And then, so all of these cases, it just shows you that Nigerian lawyers need to sit up. the Nigerian bar needs to sit up. You should stop allowing people, allowing politicians, to abuse the due process of the law. You know that something that somebody has asked you to file is against the law. It's an abuse of process. And I think, in such matters, the court should actually fine the lawyers heavily. Don't just allow them to escape. When a lawyer knowingly, files a matter outside due process or due procedure, the lawyer should be fined. The lawyer should be punished as a deterrent, to others. So I think in this matter, justice must be done and be seen to be done. Thank you.
Very, very true. Now let's quickly go to the Punch newspaper. Buhari's ex-ministers lead APC defection train to SDP. 10 former senior ministers set to move with a loyalist. There is the mass exodus of politicians, notable ones from the APC, and everyone gravitating to the SDP. Are we seeing an eventual upset, Emeka? What do you think is happening when you look into the political crystal ball in Nigeria?
Well, of course, to be expected, that senior members of former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration would move, because in many states they have been sidelined, and it's only clear that the APC is headed for an implosion. The APC that had done its best to wreck other parties is now itself facing an implosion. That's why you see, I tell my colleagues, I say, write things from your conscience. Don't allow politicians to dictate the things you write. You see them talking about other parties collapsing. And I ask a question, is APC together? APC has not held a national convention since, was it 2022? It hasn't had a national convention since then. And then that's a party you are saying is standing, and then other parties are not standing. The Labour Party actually said it held a national convention in Nnewi. Was it not 2 years ago? Was it not in 2023 or so, I think November? Then, of course, the PDP has had its own internal crisis. It's been run by a caretaker committee headed by Umar Adamago. And the PDP, have been making efforts to recalibrate. Now it has got to the stage of zonal congresses in the 6 geopolitical zones. Of course, gradually it's going to move up. It's going to move up to a national convention. And efforts have been made in that direction for the election of new national officers. And of course, when that is done, I believe the PDP will bounce back. So the fact that certain ministers in former President Muhammadu Buhari's government are being penciled down for defection is not a surprise, because in many states they have been relegated to the background. They have not been actually encouraged to play key roles in their states. Look at a state like Osun, where former Minister of Interior and former governor of the state, Rauf Aregbesola, was expelled by the APC. That was a tactical blunder. Of course, you expect that he will naturally move. He will move to the SDP. Somebody like Rotimi Amechi in Rivers State, whose faction of the APC in Rivers State actually was declared the authentic faction, even declared by a court, but later it was overruled. So the Emeka Beke faction. So what do you expect? He will move away. And of course, they will make sure in their states that they sink the APC. So all of this, you can see the president's son, Tinubu, running all over the northern states in desperation to try and help his father's second-term bid. All of these things, amount to politicking. And they are well within their rights to say they don't want to stay in the APC any longer. So we'll wait and see how things turn out.
Yeah, very true. While we wait and see how things turn out, there is this rumored permutation that the northern part of Nigeria, northern politicians are trying to woo Peter Obi as the substantive flag bearer of the SDP, and that he would only serve for one term to complete the 8 years term for the southern part of Nigeria, while the power moves to the northern part of Nigeria. Do you think that makes any sense in any way?
It's all politics. There's nothing that makes sense in politics. That's why, for instance, in politics, they'll tell you that 1 + 1. That 1 + 1, is equals to what, the person doing the calculation wants it to be. It's not necessarily 2. So that is what you see in Nigerian politics. It's all about interest. Like they say, politics is about permanent interests, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. So if they are trying to woo Peter Obi, yes, he's in line. After the Labour Party has said they won't give him an automatic ticket in 2027, they've already shot themselves in the foot. Because Labour Party is going to witness one of the largest mass defections in history. People are going to dump that platform. That platform will die in a matter of months. People are going to dump the platform. So wherever Peter Obi decides to move to, it's there. Don't forget, there's also the Zenith Labour Party, to which one senator, Onyebuchi Chukwu in Enugu State, has moved. He has moved to Zenith Labour Party, ZLP. So all of these things are going to form the mega coalition. So they're looking at whether they will fuse ZLP, PDP, SDP, maybe APP and other parties will fuse into one political party. You see, the problem is the overreaching of, the attempt by politicians to overreach themselves. President Bola Tinubu was elected as president under a democracy. Well, look at what the APC has been doing, trying to record other parties to become a one-party state. That's not what we fought for democracy to come back to. We fought for multi-party democracy. And this is not a dictatorship. This is not a tyranny. But look at what has been happening. Nigerian politicians behaving as if we are under a dictatorship. And people naturally have to resist it. But I believe more than that, we need to have electoral reforms. The IRM and the beavers must be put into the constitution. And INEC must tell us what they are for. Then we must look at the issue of nomination. Akpabio and Lawan became senatorial candidates without participating in primaries. So what is the limit? There must be a limit to what the courts can do. The Supreme Court cannot just come and declare that somebody is a candidate. The Supreme Court justices, with due respect to them, are not members of political parties. They are not members. They are not officials of political parties. So to determine, that somebody who was validly elected in the party primaries can no longer stand as a candidate, and that Akpabio Alawan, who ran for, who went to pick the APC's presidential ticket, that they can now cross from one to the other, despite clear provisions in the Electoral Act, 2022 as amended. Of course, this is just a brigandage. And the Electoral Act must be amended. There must be a limitation to the powers of the courts, to determine the electoral matters, to determine elections, to determine the outcomes of elections. Otherwise, we're just building up to anarchy. Thank you.
Very, very true. Emeka, just before I let you leave, let's take a look at what's happening in Rivers State and Fubara in limbo as lawmakers suspend sitting indefinitely. What does this mean for the political future of Siminalayi Fubara?
It doesn't mean anything. If Fubara will remain the governor till 2027 and is going to win re-election by a massive, by a landslide. You see, the sad thing is that those lawmakers are just dancing to the whims and caprices of one individual, Nyesom Wike, the minister of the Federal Capital Territory. And it's unfortunate, that they don't even have a mind of their own. They thought that Fubara was going to say no, he will not obey the Supreme Court. But Fubara has come out to say he will obey the Supreme Court. The same people who issued a 48-hour ultimatum to the governor said that the governor cannot give them a 48-hour notice to appear before them to present the budget. It just shows you that these people are just mockmakers, mischief makers, a bunch of characters who have nothing for the good of Rivers State. That is it. The Supreme Court has suspended in a strange judgment, which is injustice, supreme injustice. said that the allocation to Rivers State should be suspended. That gives room to bias. How can we trust this kind of Supreme Court? How can, going forward, how can we trust this kind of Supreme Court? You want to just ignite anarchy in Rivers State. You say that the allocation, what right does the Supreme Court have over allocation? What right does they have? The same Supreme Court that in 2001 ruled that nobody can stop the allocation of a state, now engaged in a fishing expedition and said that the allocation to Rivers State should be withheld. But interestingly, well, we've had examples where chief executives, of the nation and of the state, of the states spent, made expenditure outside the appropriation process to a certain extent. So I think the governor definitely can extend, since they are claiming that the 2024 budget, is an academic exercise. Fine, he can extend the 2023 budget. He can extend the budget year, the financial year. Yes, in financial account, he can extend the financial year, justifiably, at least for up to 6 months. Yes, if you remember, the National Assembly said that because of the delay in the submission of the 2025 budget by President Bola Tinubu, that they extend the financial year for 2024. So of course the governor can continue to spend. Forget about the pronouncement that they had put a ban on expenditure for the consolidated fund. They are just wasting their time. These guys are learners in politics, and that is the sad thing. Of course, at the end of the day, those assembly members will bow their heads in shame. Go and write it down. That says they will bow their heads in shame. Because they think maybe, okay, they can put Fubara in a limbo and the workers will not be paid. Then the workers will revolt against Fubara. They forget one thing, that Fubara has really done well for the workers. Twice, he approved 100,000 naira Christmas bonus for these workers. 2024, 2023. He has approved 85,000 naira minimum wage, down to the local government levels. That's the same man, that's the kind of man you think workers will vote against. Let them continue their fishing expedition. They are going to hit a rock very soon. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Emeka. Of course, we hope for the best in Rivers State and Nigeria. Remember, it is the hotbed. It is the well that feeds Nigeria. So if that place is in crisis, automatically Nigeria will burn down. But that is not our desire and that's not our wish. And so many people will say, how come the president is giving credence and of course ensuring that the crisis in Lagos with Obasa and his team are carefully taken care of, and he would not do the same for Rivers State? Do you think
those are his party members? Those are his party members. They are APC.
But he's the
president of the PDP leadership.
Yeah, but he is the president.
He's sad that the PDP leadership, PDP national leadership led by Omar Damagu, just sat by and allowed Tinubu to intervene. It's not their business. It's not Tinubu's business, because it's not his party. It's not his party. But Omar Damagu, when he's waking up these days, he just sat back because of his closeness to Wike. He just sat back and allowed all this rubbish to happen. But that's why people have been clamoring that Omar Damagu should step. At least they pushed Anyanwu, Senator Anyanwu out of the equation. So gradually, Omar Damagu will be out of the equation. And I hope they will get a fair person as national chairman who will say no, will not brook nonsense. That is it. That is why you see them doing all of this. You suspend them and expel them. If they were quick to expel a former Senate President Adolphus Wabara for supporting, the leader of another political party, why wouldn't they suspend the Nyesom Wike and the 27 members of their committee of friends, called the so-called lawmakers? If people are lawmakers, they should be seen to be carrying out their function. But they've adjourned signed that. So what exactly qualifies them as lawmakers? What? Just by bearing the appellation? No.
Very, very true. Very, very true. Emeka, we just have to leave it at that. And just like I said, we just hope for the best for Rivers State and for Nigeria. We just have to leave for now. But when we return, Ashake responds to allegation of abandonment of his father, who of course is going through so many health challenges. That in a bit when we return. Please don't go anywhere. you.